Don't worry, this video will not contain The Last of Us 2 spoilers. I don't care about the leaks and never try to see them, but after Naughty Dog insisted on falsely copyright striking channels and trying to take down the leaks, it made me curious. Why are they trying so much to take everything down? Let's understand who Neil Druckmann is. He says for BuzzFeed that he doesn't use the word fun. Druckmann told BuzzFeed when asked if the team ever tries to make the combat less serious. We say engaging, and it might not seem like a minor distinction, but it's an important one for us. He also says that he wants people to be invested in the story and characters, and they want the player to even commit acts that make him uncomfortable across his moral line, and even ask questions where he stands in his pursuit of justice. First of all, it's just a fucking game. Chill with stuff like where we stand and moral lines. After I finish a game, I think, was it fun to play? Was the story good? Will I ever play it again or buy another game like this? This is why what I do in GTA stays in GTA. I will never go outside and run over people in real life with my car. I wear my seatbelt, I don't drive over the speed limit, I don't use my phone, so what I'm saying is that a game will just be a game, it will never change reality. My reality. I will love the story or think the gameplay is fun, but it will never make me question reality because I know the difference between reality and games. So what is a good game? A good story can make a good game. Fun gameplay can make a good game, beautiful art or good graphics can make a good game. It depends on the game. I love Witcher's story, but I don't like the gameplay that much. I love Zelda Breath of the Wild gameplay, but I don't care about the story. I never played Minecraft, but I still think the game is fun, even if the graphics and art are not that great. So, you don't need everything to be awesome, but you still need good gameplay if the story sucks, a good story if the gameplay is bad, or good graphics if you just want to chill in a fantasy world. No matter what a game has, the main reason people play it is to have fun. So when Neil says we don't use the word fun, that sounds like a shitty product and awful workplace. I get it. You want to make a tragic story, but even that story must have some good and fun parts. For some people, real life is as tragic as it can be. So that's why we want a game to be fun, not engaging. Engaging is a shitty word used over and over by corporations that are broken from reality and have no idea what their customers want. What I'm trying to say is that if you use the word fun, people can say that wasn't fun at all. But if you say engaging and people say that wasn't, you just say, well, it made you engage in a conversation about the story, so you are engaged. Okay, fine, maybe it's not a big deal, but how about when he says that he's been influenced by feminist frequency? If you have a brain, you will know how shitty it is for somebody to say that they've been influenced in a good way by feminist frequency. All feminist frequency does is make the female a victim and the male a toxic bad person. Do you kill a man in a video game? They don't care. Do you kill a woman by accident or after you killed 100 men? You motherfucking sexist piece of shit. How can you kill a woman? Is a woman sexy or having big tits? How dare you? Women don't have big tits. Women don't even have tits. Not all Naughty Dog fans live in a country that had slaves. And even if you live in America, how many people do you think lived in those times? It's like telling someone that has only good grades about why you should study and stop getting bad grades. This is why people are fed up with this. We already know racism is bad, misogynism is bad, homophobia is bad. Also, you want more women, races, or LGBTQ people. But when you have them, you complain because they are not represented exactly the way you want. How about if you let people be as creative as they want? If you want something different, how about you make it? Oh wait, you use something that already exists and was successful, but change it to be so shitty that nobody wants it anymore. Feminist frequency also says that we don't want girl gamers. And I think that's the biggest lie that I ever heard. Most of us dream to find a girl that loves the games that we love as much as we do, or at least be interested in some of them. It was never a club, everybody is welcomed, we just care about the games. I never cared or talk about this stuff until now because I just thought nobody will take stuff like feminist frequency seriously. Everybody can see how stupid everything they say is, and that games are made for people to have fun, to forget about problems, to have a world where they can go and have fun, especially if they're introverts. Most of the games have a white guy that is the main protagonist because it's made by a white man. Is it wrong or right? No, it is what it is. Let the creator do what the fuck he wants. The idea of a movie or a game is to entertain people, and the creator of the story wants to display the best version of his story. A movie should never be made just to throw some diversity in there. The only reason it will be okay to make a movie just so you can put a race, sex or LGBTQ person in it is if it's a porno. Don't try to misunderstand what I'm trying to say. I will still love games or movies with different races, sexes or LGBTQ people, but if it has a good story, if it's made for entertainment and not teaching people about diversity, it's a complicated issue and it's hard to get rid of racism, misogynism or homophobia, especially because everybody wants to fix a problem by force. You can't stop a person with force from being a racist, misogynist or homophobe. Sure, you can put him in jail, beat him, shame him, but he will still hate and probably will start hating even more. Do you know how you get people to understand and become better? Watch why I, as a black man, attended KKK rallies by Daryl Davis TEDx Naperville TEDx video on YouTube. It's a great video that will probably help people understand diversity, much better than putting a black guy instead of a white guy in a movie or video game. Make a good and lovable protagonist and people will love him or her, no matter the sex or race. Anita Sarkeesian has some long and boring videos that doesn't really say anything, just try to blame men because they didn't make games the way that she wants them, so automatically they are racist, misogynist and homophobes. Why games were made especially for men? Because all the money that I had was for games and hardware to play games. All the girls that I know use the money for a new dress, cosmetics. I still use t-shirts that are older than 10 years. That's why games are usually made for boys. Even the games with girls in the main role, like Lara Croft, Xena, Horizon Zero Dawn, are still played by men more than girls. You see that more women play games than men, but it's mobile games. All the girls that I know will never buy a console or PC to play a game, but they play games on their phone when they are bored. We know there are hardcore gamer girls that are even more obsessed than I am, but boys will still be the ones that play more games, as long as you don't include mobile or browser games. Why do you see a woman that is kidnapped and has to be saved by a man? Did you see how people react to a woman that needs to be saved versus a man? There are still people writing articles about why Amber Heard is still a victim and Johnny Depp is a bad guy. So yeah, you usually use a girl that needs to be saved because people care more about a girl. Again, why isn't a man killed? Because when it happens you say,
the gender role reversal is so unusual that it borders on the absurd. which is one of the reasons why the scene from Disney's Wreck-It Ralph is so humorous.
Why is it funny? Just because it's a man? So you agree that nobody cares if it's a man and that you find it funny.
2009 version of Bionic Commando. Not only has your wife been dead the whole time, but turns out she's actually a part of your bionic arm.
I never want you to be involved in this.
It's okay. I'll always be by your side.
Yes, you heard that correctly. His wife is his arm.
I use my left hand and think about making love with my wife because she is my left hand. If he said that, yes, it is dark humor that some people may love, but then she doesn't like it that Peaches uses her emotions to fight enemies. So this is not funny. By the way, a game is usually made to be fun, but the guy that has his wife as an arm, it is funny. The idea is that the Peach game is made to be silly and funny, so you should learn why games exist and stop thinking they mean more than just games made to entertain people.
Merely providing an optional gender swap is not a quick and easy fix, especially where stock character-styled damsels are concerned.
And this part right here shows why Anita is a joke, that only stupid people take her seriously. When you say that...
This is still a problem, while this is not. Again, because one reinforces pre-existing stereotypes about women, while the other does not reinforce any pre-existing stereotypes about men.
What? So there are no stereotypes about men, so by default it's okay that he's almost naked, but for a woman to have big tits is not okay. Do you understand that woman with big tits exists, right? Just because you don't have big tits, it doesn't mean that all women with big tits should never exist in video games. And how does the guy isn't a stereotype? The man is blonde, tall, with a six-pack, big muscles, and that face that represents every Prince Charming. So what do you hear a girl usually say that she wants in a man? A guy that's tall, blonde, with blue eyes, that it's very athletic, nothing about smart, because if a man looks like that, he's usually stupid and a womanizer. So lie to me more how he's not a stereotype, but she is.
Gender hacks like these illustrate how female characters taking on the role of heroic rescuer can directly challenge the status quo and interrupt the established male-dominated pattern in gaming. That said, I don't necessarily think equal opportunity damseling is the answer. Simply reversing the gender roles of a problematic convention so that more men are damseled in more games is not the best long-term solution, even if the practice might be subversive in the short term to help demonstrate a very real gender disparity in the medium. Ultimately, we need to think beyond the cliché altogether.
What? You said the problem was that the woman was a damsel in distress. Now you say if it's the other way around, it's still not okay. So no games that have men or woman in distress should be made anymore? So what's next? Because it will always be something that you will see more in movies and video games. Most of them just want to reuse what's the most successful recipe.
Players are meant to find all of this hilarious, of course, so the entire premise of this game is basically built around one big sexist fat joke. Sometimes this type of self-referential humor is referred to as ironic sexism. It's the I know that you know that I know this is sexist, wherein the underlying assumption on the part of media makers seems to be that as long as the sexism is overt, obvious, or over the top, then it somehow loses its cultural power and is suddenly no longer a problem. Ironic sexism is dependent upon the false assumption that people no longer really hold retrograde sexist beliefs, and therefore the very idea of sexism is now just a hilarious joke. But nothing could be further from the truth.
You know that the point of the game is to be fun. If the developer thinks that a fat princess is funny, then what's wrong about letting him be as creative as he wants to be? If people don't like it, he will not make any money, and will try to make something else, but you should never stop creativity just because you don't find anything funny. So yes, some jokes may be stupid, sexist, stereotypical, so what? That's the idea. Even if I play a game like that, I still don't really respect people that are overweight in real life. The game is a game.
Monkey Island asks, what if the damsel is perfectly capable of orchestrating her own escape, and attempts to rescue her just make things worse? Braid asks in part, what if by trying to save the damsel, it actually makes you the villain? While these types of games are a refreshing departure from the standard formula, and something I generally like to see more of, the focus is still squarely on the male characters, and so, at their core, these games are really deconstructing the player's assumptions about the traditional hero archetype.
Yes, what if? But what are you saying? That if you think a woman needs help, you should ignore her because maybe she just doesn't need your help? Anyway, this will go on forever, and I have no idea how people can watch her videos and find them entertaining or useful. Let's talk about some new Anita stuff before going back. Now let's read some tweets. Sometimes I'm sad for these people, that they have convinced themselves that Ghostbusters or Star Wars or The Last of Us is all they have. But then I'm more sad for me that I've had to be the punching bag for men who refused to deal with their feelings for 8 years. The fuck? Anita, you are so overpaid for the job that you do, and you never help anybody with your money. From what I saw, you didn't even pay the people who work for you, or you underpay them. Ghostbusters, Star Wars, The Last of Us, others are movies and games that you and your feminist propaganda took and destroyed. Nobody is making you be an overpaid punching bag for the big bad man. By the way, women, black people and even people from LGBTQ hate you. So it's not only men, even if most of them probably are white men. I don't really care that much. I can live without the new Star Wars, Ghostbusters or even The Last of Us 2. But people should speak up about this because people worked hard creating all of this. You just try to manipulate people who don't understand that you use them to be famous and make a lot of money with no real effort. You especially pick the people who rage. That can be just kids, trolls or people who do it to make your opinion valid. But most of us are just disappointed in the companies that think you are relevant. We will probably just stop buying their products little by little until they will blame others for their mistakes, like big corporations always do, because they don't have the balls to assume responsibility for their actions. Second tweet. Deeper analysis of all this is the desperate clinging to privilege that are bestowed upon them via our systems or patriarchy and white supremacy, and their fear of losing the fiction that they are superior, but that's another threat for another bout of insomnia. Oh my fucking god. Privileges? Maybe you're the one who should check your privilege. We showed love and made rich the people and companies that made the stuff we love. We waited for years just to get the second part or a remake of what we love, but instead the company said, "Fuck you, you misogynist, racist, homophobe." So yeah, we get this watered down, low effort piece of crap that nobody wanted, and if you don't like it, we will call you even more bad stuff and blame you for our failure. Seems to me like you are the privileged ones. Getting to call your customers what the fuck you want, but still expect them to pay and respect you. You want people to think that women, other races, or people with different sexual orientations don't hate what you're doing. You know that all the fans dislike you, and it was never and will never be about men versus women, black versus white. It's just fans and creators versus people who try to oppress or marginalize. You and the people who give you power are the only ones that do the real oppression and marginalizes. And you always talk about white supremacy like you think that the KKK and the zombie Hitler come to argue with you on Twitter over some games and movies. Yes, racism and people who think they are better just because they were born a man, a woman, a race still exist. Guess what? You are also one of them. Why? You always use stereotypes when talking about men, woman, homosexuality, or races. You always say that men are bad just because they are men. You always say that if you're white, then you are always the white supremacist that's protecting the patriarchy. I think I made my point. The reality is that the real close-minded people will never want to have a normal conversation with real feedback. The close-minded people are the ones who fire people because they don't agree with their ideas. Or they block you and will never talk about the problem. They will just throw random racism and misogynism. They will never care about the truth, about real diversity, real oppression. They just want to fool themselves that they are always right and everybody who says different is, you know. You already know, because that's the best way they can manipulate people. That's how toxic people manipulate others. They use the same words over and over until you start to think that you are the problem they say you are. You are not responsible for other people's racism or misogynism. And the stupid joke that others find it offensive is their problem. Also, if you make a story and all you think about is how to put different races, sexes, sexual orientations, then your story will probably be shit, and that's why people don't want it. How about thinking about an awesome and a complex story that everybody will like, but if you want to add real diversity, then maybe do more than just throw it randomly in the story. Or even better, find people that are good at writing new and original stories with people who are of a different race, sex, or sexual orientation. So back to Neil. How did that affect Uncharted 4? Well, he says, when I'm introducing and describing a new character to our lead character concept artist, constantly she will ask, what if it was a girl? So that's her only job, asking what if it was a girl. That's why she's overpaid. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. How the fuck can you not think about that? Apparently that's the only thing that she says to you every time you go with a concept, with a story. Anyway, and I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Let me think. Does that affect or change anything? No, cool, that's different. Yeah, let's do it. What? What the fuck? That makes no sense. It's exactly the stuff that Anita said in her videos. That reversing the genders doesn't really help. Just changing their sex is not a solution. So how? What if it's a girl? Is her solution. Did she even see her videos? Then he talks about, you have some sexist focused testers who were upset by Nadine beating up Nate and Drake, and upset at the end when it was Nate's daughter, to the point where we had to ask one guy to leave. In his core, it just affected him. He was curious, not you. He was curious, not furious. Not you too, Nate, Naughty Dog. Goodbye. I guess I'm done with Uncharted. if you guys ever make another one with his daughter, this is bullshit. And I was like, wow, why does that matter? Okay, it's so hard and cringe to read what he's saying. Anyway, he says that he's a sexist focus tester. He just didn't agree that Nadine can beat Nathan Drake. Why? Because Nate isn't a pussy that never been in a fight. I mean, I understand if he didn't want to hit her, but let's be real, he can win easily in a normal fight. Again, maybe if he's not a fighter and she's a specially trained fighter, then I will believe it. But clearly, he never was a pussy and always knew how to kick ass. And you ask one guy to leave even if more people thought the same thing, so your logic is that all of them were wrong and only you are right. That's some big ego, man. I think you have a big problem and should ask for help. You didn't try to understand why the testers were angry, and that shows how bad of a leader you are. Nobody respects you. Most of the people are probably too scared of you and the others just don't care or like to kiss ass. A real leader should always understand his people and be an example. Saying that he was fired because he was a sexist is just stupid. Why was he mad? For real? Is somebody mad just because of a girl or a trans man in a game or a movie? I'm not saying that people like that don't exist, but I'm 100% sure they were mad about something else. Testers are always treated badly and looked at like useless employees that will never be missed. You probably don't care about them or their ideas, but you care so much when they talk about a virtual character in your game that you fired him. I think they just wanted the best story for a game that they are proud to be working at. But when you said that your target is just to put a woman that can be Nathan Drake, who's supposed to be a badass, not a nobody, and he was beaten in a fair fight with no weapons, well, that sounds like an old bad action movie and I stopped watching that when I was a kid. You should not make a game with a powerful main character that out of nowhere gets overpowered by a nobody. For real, I still don't think that the tester problem was with Nadine or Nathan's daughter. It was how and why they were introduced that way in the game. For crying out loud, she fights and beats Nathan Drake and his brother. That's a real fuck you to the fans and main characters. It felt so cringe when I played those parts. Give her a reason why she has an advantage, but she's that strong with no real reason, just because you think that way you fix sexism in the world? What the fuck? I'm starting to understand why people get mad when they probably explained this to you and you probably said, "How close-minded and sexist are you? You're fired!" I mean, sure, put more women, people of color, gay men in your games, but making that your main target instead of a good game with good story, then fuck off, man. Do you know why I don't like Nadine, but I love Nathan Drake? Because he smiles. He's a good man that tries his best to still laugh in the face of problems, but Nadine is just angry. All these people you force into the game are like that, angry and bitter. How and why should I like Nadine? She's so depressing and she doesn't have a reason, or at least you suck at telling her story because you are too busy making her beat all the toxic white men in the game. The last thing that I want to say about The Last of Us 2 and Neil Druckmann is, you are a white man that fired a wonderful woman and writer for that Uncharted story, Amy Hennig. I I hope I pronounced that right. But my English sucks anyway, so who cares? She loved to write a story that made everybody happy. Yeah, you don't say she was fired, but let's be real. A writer like her, who loved Uncharted to live during Uncharted 4, I know most of the big companies make an offer that you can refuse, and instead of fighting them and work there in a toxic environment, you prefer to take their offer and be happy that you made a great job as long as you were there. Like you started to shit on Uncharted games, Druckmann, that's how you already shit on The Last of Us 2. How do you support women if you fire a woman just because she probably gave you a bad feedback? She probably can't talk about why she left and what happened because it's in her contract or a deal you made. But even so, it's not hard to see that you made big efforts to make sure nobody talks about her. Lie to me more how much you want diversity when you fire the only woman writer on Uncharted and all is left is you and another white man. Gee whiz, Neil. It looks like when you started writing the stories for Naughty Dog, everybody started to dislike them. Fine by me, I can buy other games instead. And maybe one day somebody will take your place, and that will be the day that Naughty Dogs makes games again. Not cringe games, just because a privileged feminist says so. I know the video is already long and I just wanted to make an outro and ending to the story. I know my English is bad, I'm trying to improve everything, my editing skills, my everything. I must try harder, but in the end, what I want to do is entertain people. So don't take that seriously what I'm saying, because I'm not trying to do a news channel or something like that. It's just for entertainment. And it's very sad when you see stuff like this happening. They destroy your movies, the games that you love, just so they can, I don't know, milk the franchise as much as they can. They don't really have creativity. They don't really care about the fans. Let's talk about The Last of Us. They know the game is already big. They will make money. People will still buy this game. But I'm sorry, I can't really buy this game. For me, buying this game is like supporting this kind of people that will just do this over and over until enough people will just stop buying their products. So yeah, there's a lot of games that need our support and love, that deserves it. So I really don't care that much. I just will support those games more than supporting these kind of games. See you in the next videos, when I hope I will do a much better job with everything, and I hope you're at least a little entertained.